Yes. Do I believe that there's a psychology to how people buy things? Yes. But is there like one thing that I could say, like, hey, Matt, if you do this every time, you're going to be
Yeah.
able to tell if someone's going to be good at sales? I just don't think that's it. I really don't.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Ground Up Podcast. My name is Matt Walton, here with my co-host Matt Huber. Matt, how you doing this week?
Week is good. Day is better. I was telling Christine before you got on. Did have an opportunity to get on the golf course this morning. I shot a record score this morning. I got a 77 this morning. So it was my best round I've ever had. As soon as I got done, I jumped in the car. And as soon as I closed the door, the skies opened up. It was like the day is just really, really going well. Customers, I've got random 2 or 3 customers today. I think it was 3 sent me an email or a text that I've been waiting on that said, hey, I'm ready to do business with you. So it's just been one of those days. So let's
Things
keep
are
the
aligning.
train rolling.
Yeah, you gotta have days like that. You have to have days like that because a lot of times as entrepreneurs, you have days where it goes the
The other
opposite
way. Yeah.
every single
So
time.
true.
So that's what you
So
work
true.
for. You work for days just like that. And so we have somebody who knows the entrepreneur journey on our call today. Someone who's the CEO of a company called M3 Learning. Christine, how you doing?
I am fantastic. Excited to be here with you too.
Excited to have you on here. So tell us a little bit about M3 Learning.
M3 Learning is a sales training company. It was started about 30 years ago from someone that many people know, Skip Miller, who is an author, 8-time author, and created M3 Learning back in the day. He was my mentor for the last, call it 12, before he passed, about 12 years. He'd been a mentor of mine. So this training methodology, the consultative selling methodology that we use, proactive selling, has been around a really long time. A lot of people know it. And so I, about a year and a half ago, took over M3 Learning as the CEO after we lost Skip. And so that's kind of what I've been up to the last 18 months.
Can you teach us a little bit for those who don't know what is
Yeah.
proactive selling?
Sure. So I think that it's interesting. People always say, like, what's the difference between proactive selling and every other, sales methodology out there? And I'm like, nothing. There's nothing. There's nothing. A consultative methodology is a question based, curiosity based, tool based. And I think the biggest difference with proactive selling is it is very, there's concepts and theory, but also a lot of very actionable tools. And when I talk to people that, might have learned from Skip 20 years ago, what they tell me is, Christine, I've learned so many different methodologies. The one I remember? Proactive selling. And you know why? It's because the tools are so quick. I don't miss them. The quips, the little words, the phrases, the things that I learned, I use them every day. So it's so interesting because I think at the core, most, consultative methodologies are similar. This one is just different because I think that they have tools that can be used with any other methodology. You can still learn and still use it. And also they're very actionable and memorable.
Do you start off your mentorships with here, some of this pin?
You know, yes, yes, Matt, I do. Yes,
That's the way to do it, right?
that's right. That's right. See what you
Is
got.
there a good way to do that? Like, I mean, like, I feel like I know my sales style is very ask a lot of questions, heavily discovery based. It's solution based selling. And I feel like that concept of sell me your pen is such a cheap trick. Like I know that that's an old school way to do it. I know that I've been very successful in sales and I would struggle at that. Christine, if somebody gave you that trick, if they just said, sell me this pen, is there a way to do that correctly? I know it's just kind of maybe an off topic, but is there a way to do it right?
It's interesting because when I was at Aspireship prior, I had that people were coming in. Essentially, Aspireship was a place where anybody could come and learn how to sell. So you didn't have to have a selling background. So we had, anyone from teachers to physical therapists to bartenders to, people that owned businesses that wanted to learn how to sell. And so with that, I actually did call Skip when we were creating the company and said, Skip, I need the methodology in this so that we can have them have a strong foundational layer, right? But it's so interesting because I don't think there's necessarily the way, there, like you look at this, people are always looking for like the silver bullet. I don't believe in that. I think I have taken so many things along the way. Yes, is there a methodology that is foundational to the way I believe selling works best? Yes. Do I believe that there's a psychology to how people buy things? Yes. But is there like one thing that I could say, like, hey, Matt, if you do this every time, you're going to be able to tell if someone's going to be good at sales? I just don't think that's it. I really don't.
I think what the goal for that is the sell me this pin, because what you see a lot of people do wrong is they immediately like, this is the best pin in the world, and this pin is going to be is absolutely. I mean, they jump into like a bunch of things about the pin, but the problem is that they never actually understood who they're selling to, and they
Well,
never
and what
asked.
you need it for. What do you
Yeah,
need it for? You
exactly.
know?
I
Yeah.
think the goal of that is to see if you're ready, if you jump into asking questions versus just start talking about the value of that. That's what I think that is. I mean, I've never been asked that in a
That
setting by
is.
somebody else, but I guess that's what it's for.
That is I mean, Skip used to tell this story, and it was so interesting after he passed away. We asked people on LinkedIn, like, if you ever were trained by Skip, what's the one thing you remember? And over and over and over and over, I saw people say this phrase, and they would say, it's not about the dog. And Skip had a story that he told about, he said, me and my wife, she came to me and she said, I want to get a dog. And she was, she had this whole idea of she wants a dog and this is what she wants. Skip was traveling all the time, all of the things, right? So he's like, wow, this is great. This is awesome. Let's do it this weekend. So Friday night, she hands him, it was at that time, a printed out map of where they were going to go. He's like, what's this? She said, well, this is where we're going to go look at the puppies. And he said, puppies? I thought we were going down to the pound. And, we're going to go get a dog this weekend. She's like, no. He says, what is it? Okay, it's 3 hours away. Also, what is a King Cavalier Spaniel, all this other stuff with a price tag,
Yeah.
between $3,000 and $4,000. He's like, whoa, what are we talking about here? This is it. He, in his mind, he's picturing a German Shepherd that can patrol the yard when he's gone, that can jog with him when he's there, right? That's what he's picturing. When she said, I want a dog, she wants one that can sit on her lap, that can go to brunch, that can be her companion when he's gone. And the whole idea of the concept, very similar to what you're saying, Matt, it's not about the pen. It's not about the dog. It's what do you want the dog for? And if they had actually broken down and asked the questions of like, okay, when you think about a dog, and what do you want it to do? What does it need to serve? What's the outcome we're looking for? They both had very different definitions of it. And that story people remember over and over because it's not about the dog. It's
Right.
what do we want? What is the dog's purpose? What is it serving? And that, I will tell you, they ended up going with a golden retriever. Kind of a mixture
Yeah, but
between the
thanks.
two,
Yeah,
right?
good.
They went with a golden retriever. But at the conversation point when they had the biggest conflict, it was because they had two very different value propositions on what that meant, right? So that's that interesting part. And I think that that's partially what you're talking about, Matt, is it's not about the pen. It's not about whatever you're selling. And that's what we try to consistently teach at M3 Learning is it's not about your stuff. It's not. Yeah.
So who's the perfect audience for M3 Learning? I think you and I spoke about this. Like, I think maybe you have a current audience today, but maybe you're kind of developing what that audience is. Is that correct?
Yeah, so M3 Learning had predominantly been a software and tech company. So we, Skip's everywhere he was. That's where I was. That's where I met him. Was at a tech company, a SaaS company specifically. And so that was really his bread and butter, and because he was out of the Bay Area. So that really became his place. Now what I'm finding is we for sure do very well with a software, technology, SaaS. I mean, all of those types of things we do very well with. But I'm also seeing that we're being able to help. I have two rather large AI companies that we're working with. I have an oil drilling company that we're working with. Very different manufacturing company. Yes, some software and tech, logistics company. But man, we are seeing that really kind of software and tech is like the tip of the spear. So I think we're faster. Like I had someone tell me the other day, it's like we're at the front of the train. Like that industry is at the front of the train, and there are a lot of them that are further behind, and they need to learn this as well, right? There's a lot of people that have owned businesses, that have been running companies, that are now getting ready to pass that down or have someone else take it over, and they need to look at how have they been selling, what have they been doing. This what got you here won't get you there. And you're going to have to revamp how you're selling and what you're doing, because people can get so much information through between, the internet, AI,
Yeah.
every other thing that we've got. Yeah, it's very different. Yeah.
So when let's say a company hires you, let's say a new company, just a brand new major AI company hires you. Are you working with the upper management? Are you working from upper management down to the entry level seller? Is there I can think early in my sales career, I worked at a company called Dealer Socket, and they had a training group came in and they taught about the book Who Moved My Cheese. I don't know if you've ever read that
Yeah,
book. I don't remember anything about it. I remember
yeah.
I spent a whole day in a training class and it was a whole training thing about it. I don't do good in classroom environments, Christine. So
Okay.
it's
Okay.
not my personality, right?
Sounds good.
But then I also worked for a company that brought in more of a mindset mental based coach. Called her name was Danielle Delgado, and I've got so much more out of her than I did out of the Who Moved My Cheese concept. So, but she was working with everybody in the team and then provided role-based coaching based off of where your role was, and if you're in sales versus customer service versus leadership. That Who Moved My Cheese was very much specifically towards the sales organization. Are you guys focusing in on the account executive level, the SDR level, the leadership level, or all parts working together utilizing the strategy?
So predominantly, I would be working with, it's predominantly the sales leaders and their teams. So if it's a CRO that owns go to market, that is all the way from, soup to nuts, it maybe be some SDRs, some account executives, some account managers, and then maybe customer success. We can teach this type of methodology. Certainly there's some things that if you're in customer success, you might not need to know if you're, versus if you're in new logos, right? Or a new customer acquisition. So there's some difference in nuances there, but we predominantly work in go to market. So however whatever my I would call it the ATL, the above the line, that's our methodology here talking, but we would work with them and then we would layer down, what do we need to teach, who needs to know it, and sometimes getting marketing involved, because as we're starting to shift language on the sales side, some messaging needs to change, and that can be very effective to have marketing pop into a couple of classes that we're talking about language so that we are on the same page. So I would say really that go to market is where the sweet spot is.
So I've now, as I've elevated to more of a sales leader over the past 15 years, I've really had to get much better at training people and systemizing a training process. I also fundamentally believe, and I'd love to see your input on how you guys do this, a training program is only as good as the coaching aspect that comes behind it. So you might be able to go in and teach a person all of the things you do, but I assume and I hope that part of that development with the organization you work with is also teaching the leaders how to then coach their people to get the most out of that training, so that you guys aren't able or needing to be there to make sure that it's being implemented. Is that correct? I mean, is a big part of what you do is not just train the concepts, but then teach the coaches how to coach?
I think that's a really important point, because right now, for instance, everyone is looking at training for next year. So they're thinking, get people up into the right. There's only a few things you can do that makes it happen, and training is one, so with that, it is for sure critical that we have accountability on the leadership and management side. One of the things that our program starts with is a leadership conversation. It is let me tell you what we're going to be teaching. Let me show you what we're going to be doing. Let me explain to you after class 1, this will be their homework assignment. This is going to be how we're going to be watching for it. They are going to be sending us the homework assignment and copying you. And this should be what its concern is. And also, if I see concerns in the homework, I will tell you, hey, got concerns about this one. This is somebody phoning it in. This is somebody that is not, so we will do that. We're also, my team is very good. If we can get access to their calls, we're starting to also listen to see, are we hearing those things? So the leadership should be listening. Also, if we can be listening, I will start to hear changes. We should start after about session 3. I should really be hearing major differences in the conversations that they're having, because they have now been taught different things, and we should see that coming into play. So for sure, it is about how can I help and partner with your team to enable your team to be able to have that consistent accountability. I can't manage it for them. Now, I can tell you, 2 times I had Skip and Proactive Selling come into my organizations that I needed to get them up into the right. So I know what it's like to hold them accountable. And I have a high expectation. You know why? Because I saw massive results very quickly when I was doing it. So for me, part of me is evaluating the leadership team, and I'm saying, where are we going to be with this? In order for this to work, you are going to have to partner with us. And that it needs to look like this. So I need that commitment. Before we sign the contract, I need that commitment, because I don't want to be just doing it for a check the box exercise. If that's what you want, and as a leader, you're like, listen, we got to sign somebody up to do training because that's what everybody wants, career progression and development. And blah, blah, blah. That's just not me. I'm not into it. If you're not into it, I'm not into it. And so I can't want this for you and your team more than you do. So you have to want to put in this work. And if you just think that any trainer can come in and make it happen just by what they're doing in the classroom, it's just not going to work. It won't.
I was going to say that I'd written that down to the follow-up, which is the complete buy-in from everybody top down for it to work. Yeah. Because you might sell the founder of the company or the CEO of that company who might really believe their team needs this. But if that then sales leader or the team of sales leaders is not fundamentally bought in to being able to change their process and hold their team accountable, it's not going to work. I run an outsourced sales organization for a large client of mine. And, when we first did it, I made the mistake of just saying, okay, cool, whatever you need. It was my first major client in that space. And so I let them kind of lead me in that process. And I've been working with them for over a year. The owner loves me. The owner loves us. He loves everything that we're doing. But the individual stores, some of them love us, some of them don't. Some of them are bought in, some of them aren't. And there's a vast difference on the results we get on the stores that are bought in versus not. And now, as I have recently had an opportunity to take that business model and expand it outside of working with that one large client, I'm not as desperate to take on a new client. I'm very selective, and I identify that you must convince me why I should put my resources to you as much as I'm going to convince you that we might be the best solution to help you solve your problems. But it is a two-way sale here and a two-way agreement, and I have no problem, and Matt and I have actually had a lot of success with this in firing clients. And we've fired quite a few clients over these past 6 months as we've learned our standards and established that. Now, Christine, is that something you came with organically here, or is that just something you also, like us, just picked up over time and learned what the standards needed to be able to probably hold and carry the reputation, the name that you guys carry in the market?
I think it's a little bit of both. So my natural personality is much of partnership. And I think that's why Skip and I got along so well. He was very in your face, very straightforward. I mean, I know this from being the leader of the organizations that he was coming into. If I happened to walk into one of the training rooms just to make sure my teams were on point, I could barely get in there before he was calling on me to answer a question. So, because that was his nature. He was very much like, if you're in the room, you're in the room. And you're learning in the room and you're going to do the work in the room. So he had that strong personality. So I'm naturally a little bit like that, in that I want partnership. I do not want to be considered a vendor. And the companies that I work with, that resonates with. Because do you want to be an order taker, or do you want to be a strategic and trusted advisor? I don't know very many salespeople who are like, sign me up just to sit there and get yapped at and just take orders. When the market's frothy, maybe, but in general, that's not what we're trying to do. That's not who we're trying to be. That isn't even fun. You can do that for a while, and then it's not really even fun or challenging, and you definitely don't get paid. As soon as something's got to go, if you're just an order taker, you have no skill set. That isn't actually going to be very good for you, is it? So I think with that, I would say I'm naturally wired that way. And then it became very clear to me, again, what you're talking about. Certain managers, certain leaders are doing better than others. One of the arrangements and conversations that we have is, I'm going to come to you, Mr. CRO, or I'm going to come to you, VP of Sales, or I'm going to come to you, President, and I'm going to say, this is what I'm seeing, and those observations are things that they want, as an outsider who does this all the time with many different teams. Most of the time you're like, Christine, tell us what you're seeing. What can we be doing to elevate the team? I have concerns over these 3 people. I have concerns over this thing. Are they founded based on what you're seeing? So really I want to be seen as a trusted strategic partner as well. And I'm not really interested in the, flash in the pan one time training that then again checks a box and is something that they can put on the sheet that they did to help their team. That's less exciting for me.
Yeah, I was curious to know if you actually go and tell like leader up or higher ups that, hey, your sales leader is not it. Like if you ever have to say like, this guy is not the right one for the job.
I have had that conversation more than once where I have said I have some deep concerns over some things that I'm saying, only if invited for those conversations. And I can tell you, the leaders that have that niggling, they're concerned, they will tell me in advance, I have some concerns about this, and I would welcome this conversation. And so if there is a place where I say, here's some areas that I would focus on, I've led lots of leaders and fired many people. I mean, if you have been in sales leadership for any amount of time, you've probably had to have many conversations that are uncomfortable. So I think, yeah, for sure. That's a part of, again, if there is that relationship, we teach that a strong relationship and competency are really the axes that we would measure an order taker all the way to a strategic and a trusted advisor. Those are the things. So a trusted relationship, and do you know what you're doing? I think those are the 2 things that really have to be true. And I would say that's the same for me.
I'm curious to know this. And what I work in is real estate, and real estate wholesaling is what I do in real estate investing. A lot of it is, hiring people to do that, to do the same thing I'm doing, to have negotiations, to have conversations about things. And within it, we understand that there's a lot of excuses that come up with a lot of people who are doing in sales. Do you think that all excuses for being successful in sale are not valid, or do you think there's anything that's a valid excuse for why somebody is not progressing in sales?
Can I answer this before you do, Christine?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So I've got a strong opinion. Actually, I was at I go to a married couple group on Wednesday nights. This is organized through my church. And we actually got into this conversation. Now, the conversation we talked about yesterday was more faith-filled. But we were talking about a thing called spiritual warfare and how sometimes you could get attacks from the outside. And so for the audience that is maybe spiritual or not, maybe won't speak to you, but the overall perspective of it is I found out that a lot of people in that looked at their perspective in a negative light, and they looked at spiritual warfare as a way that they could give them an excuse for things that they maybe aren't doing well themselves. And one of the things that I learned really, really early in sales, and I think that it served me so well in life, is I always look at, first off, the positive side of everything that's in front of me. I'm a very, very optimistic, positive person. And then when anything goes wrong, I only look at myself and how I can affect the change. I never allow myself to blame anything outside of me. And if there is a thing that is outside of me, I always look back at me and say, okay, well, what could you have done differently? How could you have handled it differently? What could you have said, did, all that thing? Because for me, what I've learned in the people that I develop, train, and mentor, specifically around sales, is why focus on those things when you cannot affect the change of the outcome. If you can learn from it and do something differently to get a different result, great. But if not, don't distract yourself and allow yourself to be a victim of something that was never under your control or never something that you could affect the outcome at the end. Christine, sorry to interject there, but what are your thoughts?
No, I think that's great. I don't think it's my perspective is much different than yours, Matt. I think that in general, I'm also not a Pollyanna to be able to say everything's fine. No, we're good. It's like, okay, like I have a very dear friend who is a CEO of a warehousing software company that has been majorly impacted by supply chain challenges and all of these different things. Like looking at him and saying to him, that's all in your head. That is not helpful. Not helpful, because that's a real thing that they have got to solve for. And he's not going to fix what's happening in supply chain, but it is his job as the CEO of the company that he is leading to solve for it. What are we going to do? What are we capable of changing? Or where do we need to make adjustments or what? So I guess I look at it twofold. Yes, I want to acknowledge, and acknowledgement of what is real, I
Right.
think is just absolutely healthy. Like, okay, this
Yeah,
is
you
where
can't
we
be
are.
delusional about
That's
it.
right.
Like, yes, correct.
Absolutely. We got to look at it and say, this is what it is, right? And this is where we're at. And I think that's the power there is, and it is still in like, I have to, if I want to continue leading through it, then I'm going to have to sort this out. We've got to figure it out. And so I definitely look at it like, is it figure outable? Is it? Yep, probably. There's probably some stuff that we can do. And if not, if there really is no path here to success, I have to make the decision to call it and do something else. So that's the other part to it is there are times when I think great salespeople like, okay, in this environment, it's not working for you, man. I have fired a lot of people who I have said, can you do this? Yes, I believe you can. Is it working here? No, it is not. That does not mean that that is a judgment on can you ever be successful anywhere else. In fact, oftentimes they'll go somewhere else and be successful. And that is like, but here, and I think that's the difference between like the black and white and the right and the wrong is I use a lot of working, not working. It's not working here. That doesn't mean that it can't work anywhere. It's not working for the business. It's not working for you. You're stressed out beyond belief because you're not hitting quota, and it's not working for me that you're not hitting quota. So we need to make an adjustment here.
Yeah, so it
So
sounds like
yeah,
obviously there's things that you can control and things that you can't control. And I think one of the obviously important things is that if there's something you can control, like you were saying about your CEO friend, you can't control the supply chain issues. So what he can control is what he does after that supply chain issue comes up, and how do I pivot? How do I make the changes? How do I go forward? Matt, I mean, obviously, I 100% agree with you. What you have is I always look at myself first and say, all right, what could I have done differently? What can I improve on? What can I learn from on this mistake? And then I move forward past that. I don't. There's the people that think like, oh, it's the market. The market's just tough over here right now in real estate. I can't be successful in it, and they just quit, or they give up, or they go and try and find another market, and they don't work out in that other market because you never fix yourself in the first place.
And
So a
that's
lot of
why I
it.
think that the pitch pace attitude concept, Matt, that you've heard me preach about all the time, which is, especially as a salesperson, if you're successful or not, in my determination after doing this for 20 years now, that you're either successful or not because of your pitch, your pace, or your attitude. And so a good salesperson, it's either they need to improve the words they say, how many customers you're interacting with, or your mindset. And generally, not always, generally, if you're not able to be successful in sales, it's either because your pitch is not strong enough, you're not talking to enough customers, or at some point in time, you've lost your attitude. And the attitude is mindset, confidence, enthusiasm, energy, being able to be trusted and be able to portray confidence. All of those things tie into it. But why I have my team focus on those things is because, well, the guy didn't answer the phone. I couldn't get any connections. Okay, pitch, pace, or attitude. Well, maybe I need to call a few more customers. I can't make them answer the phone, so why am I going to focus on them not answering the phone? It doesn't mean that sometimes you'll be a victim of bad luck, but so often people, and we've all seen that, they become a victim of them being the victim. And they get so paralyzed and allow themselves to blame the things that are not them on why they can't be successful, instead of saying, what can I do to affect the outcome and the change in that aspect?
Yeah, I
So
was listening to Alex Ramosi talk about that we bring up Alex Ramosi all the time, and he was saying it one time. He said, well, this guy was talking to him. He's like, well, I can't do it because I have a family, I have this job, I have kids, I have stuff like that. And Alex goes, yeah, you're right, you can't do it.
yeah,
He's
can't.
like, what do you want me to say? If that's what your excuse is, and that's what you told yourself, and you told yourself you can't do it, you can't. So like, what do you want me to say that's going to help you magically fix it?
And there's
Yeah.
that old saying, if you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right. because your belief in that, belief in you or a lack of belief in you will determine the outcome generally. So if you
Christine, which one do
convince
you think is more
yourself of that,
important in that, in the pitch pace attitude? Which one do you think is most important in those?
I do believe excellence has a pace and it's not slow.
Hmm.
So I will tell you, I agree a lot with what you're saying, not just about how many customers, Matt, but I do think there is a pace when you are excellent. And it is the quick responses. It is, if a customer, like I was just with a customer driving home, had to take a different call, pulled over into the QT, had the call in my car, did the on Zoom, because that was how we'd agreed to do it, because like I need to be exactly where I need to be when I'm going to do it, because it's building trust. And I do believe that it's probably, I would say that's a close second for me, is how quickly you are moving, how you're being proactive, how you do all of those things. Man, that pace is something that I also can see too. That is part of some of those places where it's working, not working. Matt, is sometimes just because of people's natural pace. If the environment is such that it is moving quickly, it is a growing fast, high functioning startup that we are moving very fast, and I don't have time to tell you 17 reasons why I need you to turn right, not left, then what I need from you is to say, got it, I understand, we'll move.
that's why the attitude actually, in most cases, feeds the pace too.
I would
Because,
agree with that.
yeah,
Yep.
like when you're
Yep.
driving towards a goal that you're super motivated for, you understand your why, you're having a great day, it's far easier to pick up the phone and make another call after you've already had 3 successful calls. It's much more difficult to do that. It's much more difficult to maintain that pace you just referred to when you've had 5 days consecutively and you know that next call is not going to be a good call. It's much more difficult. So by managing the mindset of your employees, managing the mindset of yourself, you generally are going to aid the pitch, because as we all know, it's not what you say. In most cases, it's how you say it.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
the attitude also drives the activity, and it drives the willingness to go the extra mile for the customers, to go the extra mile for that. I am a firm believer, Christine, and I bet you there's not too many people that are busier than you and busier than me, but my best ability as a CEO is availability. That is my best ability, is that you can call me at 8 in the morning or 10 o'clock at night. You can text me or email me at that time, and I almost guarantee an employee and a client of mine gets a response back in less than 5 minutes. And if I cannot answer the phone when you call me, you get an immediate text of me declining the call, texting. You say, I will call you back in 13 minutes, and I guarantee you get a call back in that 13-minute time span, because I believe that is what people want to have. And I believe that one of the things I've found most frustrating in business is when people act like they're too busy to take care of their employees or too busy to take care of their clients. And I at least owe that to the people that I sell that as a part of the experience of working with me. For some people, it's a lot. Some people, it's too much. But I expect that standard because I give that standard. And how could I expect that of you if I don't give it to you? If that makes sense.
I think it makes great sense. Yeah. And again, showing up every single time that way, right? You're saying it's not just lip service and words, it's action. And it is consistent. I mean, Matt, you just said you had a great day, all this. Your energy is up. You're great. You're in a good spot, right? And yeah, you didn't get 5 no's this morning either. But I bet you if you had, before you got on this, you would have reconciled that, got, back to center, right? Even if you had been drained, you would have gotten back to, like, I would call it like the 0 level. And then, you want to gauge up, right? We're looking to, what is that energy? How do we get more of that? And then when we drain, we got to get back up, so you're right. And whatever we need to do, self-management is critical. And whether you're an IC or whether you're a leader, you have to be able to manage yourself.
Yes.
And manage how you're showing up every single time. And is it always going to be perfect? No. Have there been many times when I've had to say, look, I didn't like the way I showed up yesterday. I'm sorry, guys. Here's what we're going to do today. I remember a very important meeting that I was having with some of my direct reports, and I said, I'm inviting you to tell me when I'm not doing well and when I'm not leading you well. I'm inviting that. And one of them said, so right now you're
Oh, no, you could have waited 30 minutes before you give me the feedback.
I know. Right now, you're being a little grippy. And I said, and that was great feedback. That was kind of and it ended up being our feedback over time. It'd be like, you're white knuckling it, Christine. Let us do our job. Stop being so grippy. You're about to pull, I can tell you're about to pull everything back and take it over because you don't think we're doing well. Let us say we're not doing well. Let us rectify it, right? And so we had that availability to have those conversations, and that was probably my best management team because we were so tight and could have those hard conversations, even when we were in the fray, man. Even when we were driving on a number and we were not going to hit it. It's 9 p.m. at night. We're in the room trying to figure out what we're going to do. Even then,
Yes.
we could have those hard conversations.
I'm curious to know on this one. When you have your leaders, how quickly do you loosen the reins and just let them go and see what happens versus how quick or how much are you on top of them when they first start off?
And this is my type A type of personality. I'm pretty prescriptive. I believe it's important to give people the playbook and to consistently roll through it with them multiple times. And, I'm right now, one of those same managers that worked with me before, he's now working with me in the company at M3 Learning. And so he is learning about how I deliver training and what this looks like and all of these things. And I even said to him, okay, so heads up, this is right now. I'm feeling like I need to jump in and I'm trying not to. So I am very good at explaining sometimes what I think we don't say out loud. Like, for instance, in that circumstance, I either could take over and say, like, never mind, I'm going to send this. I'll send it instead of you because the last 2 times you didn't send very well. And so I'm going to send it, then watch how I send it. Instead of just doing that, or being passive aggressive and frustrated if it wasn't sent the way that I wanted it done a now 3rd time, what I said was, okay, so I gave you feedback 2 times. I'm feeling like I need to jump in. I'm resisting doing that because I want you to learn. Could you send me what you're going to send and let me look at it first? And then I will give you the coaching because I don't want a 3rd email going out the way that I don't want it done. Right. So because what we're talking about, Matt, is we're talking about a standard of excellence. If you sell a deal and then you're delivering on that deal, there's a different expectation. If I sold that deal and I'm having you help me with it, my expectation is A+ all the time, no mistakes. If I do make a mistake, I come back and say that. And so everybody has a little bit of a different standard of communication, of the way we do it. And that's like what you were talking about, Matt, when you said, like, I am very, very responsive. I am available. And that is now, you might have somebody else on your team that says, listen, I'm a family guy. At 6 p.m., you're not going to hear from me for a couple hours. If something else comes up, and I will return your call after those things. Probably I need from about 6 to 9, I'm unavailable. And if that's the expectation that they gave to their clients, that is totally fine. And as long as their client's okay with that, that's great. That's totally great. Again, we all have different standards. And I think a lot of times we forget to communicate what those are so that then we can, I always say you tell them what you're going to tell them, you tell them, and then you tell them what you told them, right? You're consistently setting expectations, meeting expectations, or exceeding expectations, and then setting expectations, meeting. That brings forth high levels of trust and a strong feeling of competency.
So we're in this, me and Matt are in this phase right now where we're looking to hire C-level people in a way to run parts of our organization. And so for a long time, it's been me and Matt trying to do every part of our organization. And then we're hiring generalists that come in and they help to kind of wear a bunch of hats and kind of go do a bunch of things with us to help us move our company up. But we're in the season right now where we're trying to find specialists. Me and Matt don't know marketing. We're not marketing guys. And so we're running a marketing division. We need somebody to come in and lead the team in marketing division. So we're bringing in C-level people. And so I want to know advice from you for people like us who are about to start to try and manage or be working with other C-level high performing people. In that, like, how would you work and make this team gel together and make sure that we all the personalities that come in with this? A technology officer is way different from a marketing person or a salesperson. It's all different people, but they all have high level skills. What advice would you give to make this team gel?
And I'll add one more piece to that, and just to understand kind of the nature of both Matt and I. Matt and I's business up until now has always been, as Matt said, hire generalists. Like think of the aspireship side. We don't look for care people have any sales background. My experience has always been I actually rather hire people with no sales background and teach them how to do sales organically from scratch. And our whole organization, we have over 50 people that work for us. Everybody has started off entry level, and we have been very lucky to have developed 10 people into leadership roles, partnership level roles, because Matt and I really, really foundationally believe into development, mentoring, coaching inside of our business. But to the point of what Matt's saying, these people we're looking to bring in are people that are going to be our equals, not people that are going to be employees. So, there's a completely different way we bring that person in, I would expect. I mean, any advice you have there?
I will say, okay, I think that one of the mistakes that I've seen made over and over and over is that we don't actually test people for the role we want them to do. And you can have a lot of conversations, but when you're bringing somebody into an executive level, a lot of times what they do is hiring leaders will say, or, they'll have a recruiter or somebody like, work me out your 30, 60, 90 plan, walk me through this and all these things. That's actually not the job. So I think what is really important, and when I have done in the past, when I have been looking for specific types of things, is I have said, the problems we are solving are these problems or this. And if I want this person to be on the executive team with me, in a room with me, and we're solving problems together, that's exactly what I would have them do. I would have them do the job that I want them to do. I have also paid people for this while they are in the job, like I would call it the process, right? The last time I hired a marketer, I gave her 3 options of things that I needed done. And I said, these are 3 things that are going to have to be done immediately. Like she was going to be the head of marketing. This is how we're going to do it. I would like you to choose one. Tell me why you chose it. And then you will have 48 hours to complete that. And I would like you to send me an invoice after. And that became, truly. So like, if you want, I think about this is how can you not tell me how you're going to do the job, but show me how you're going to do this. Show me how you're going to partner with me. And if it's you all in the room and you've got to break some stuff down and you've got to hash it out and then you've got to have them have them do as much of that, because the other thing that you'll find is people will self-select out. If they don't like that word or that whole thing that they're doing there, or the project or the work, they will self-select out. They will, because it won't be energizing. And then you can tell. But if you want to lead us as executives, I want to see you do it. I will argue with you to see if you will push back with me, because what I want is to be able to say, can you dance with me? If we're solving this problem, are you going to be able to do this? Like, I don't know, but this is the energy you're going to be getting. This is me. So like, if that doesn't work for you, that's totally fine. Then that won't be a good fit here. And I have found that to be very useful, very useful. So I would say to you all, especially if you don't feel like you have competency in an area, that is where we start to get a little bit nervous, because they can put all kinds of flim flam on a thing. And you're really like, I don't know what this is. You're throwing it into, Claude or ChatGPT and saying like, what does this even mean? Like, is this even good? That's not what you want. What you want is, hey, if we're going to have somebody that we're going to hire for AI, what is the thing? What do we want them to do? And let's give a sample of how this work would be, and then get in the room with us and let's hash this out. Let's do a whiteboarding session. Let's do this. Let's figure out. And then what would you do next? Let's have them be with somebody that they're going to be working with all the time and direct some work that they're all doing. Let me see how you do it. I really feel like that is the best advice I could give you is a lot of talk. There's so much talk. I'm in a couple of different communities. I actually got out of one recently because I did not like that every time I was seeing somebody was going up for a role, they were asking other people, hey, have you, I'm getting asked for this. Anybody have one I can, kind of start using and copy and paste and all this other stuff. And it's like, great, you're getting ready to go into an executive role and you just copied and pasted what somebody else has done. Like, that does not give me much confidence. And yes, are people going to use AI? Yes, are people going to do different things? You know what they can't do? Get in the room and hash it out with me for 4 hours.
They don't know
Right?
it.
They don't know it. And so if you can do some of those things, I think that would be valuable.
I think it'll be interesting. I mean, Matt and I have very two different personalities. Hopefully, you can kind of see that. And I think we work well
Yeah.
together. I mean, Matt and I had a pretty uncomfortable conversation yesterday about some of the things that we're working on. And I'm a lot to deal with. I'm a lot. I am very direct. Part of my interview process is I challenge people because I'm going to challenge them in there. I do a thing every 30 to 90 days where I pull a manager in and I don't put a smile on my face. I'm very straight and I just start poking holes. Okay, I'm just checking to see if we're structurally there. And every once in a while, the stick goes through the wall, and I poked a hole. I found a hole. Let's fix it. Let's solve it. But I'm poking holes, and it makes a lot of people very uncomfortable. And I need them to be comfortable in the uncomfortable because for me, I believe that that's where growth happens. I believe if I go to the gym, the only way my muscles are going to get stronger and get bigger is I've got to break my muscles down, let them recover, and then go hit it again. And I think that's kind of how people are and how companies are in that sense as well. I think the thing that Matt and I have talked a lot about, which is us being able to deliver the what and the why, and then looking for that expert to be able to bring in the how.
Yeah,
And as
I
long
think
as we
that's
can
good.
clearly communicate the what and the why we're doing this, then having somebody who can say, okay, got it. You want to do this. Here's why you want to do it. Let me show you exactly how to do it, how to execute that. And that's the gap that Matt and I have. We clearly understand the what and we understand the why. We just don't necessarily know the best way to execute the how.
Yeah, and I think as long as you set the right boundaries around, and it's going to be a problem if 4 months in, we're not here. Like your how still has to get here at the timeline that's going to work for me. And if you guys are completely off base on the timeline, then they should tell you that coming like right away. Woo, 4 months, guys, that ain't ever going to happen.
We just had
Even if you
that
had,
big
yeah.
issue with that.
And I'm interested, Christine, too, at you as a CEO, how much, what level of expertise would you say you have in each one of the departments that are under you? Like how much expertise you have in marketing or technology or this?
Okay, so we're a small team. I have, a marketer and but she's like part-time. So I don't have, I would say I'm dangerous on how much I know about marketing. I worked for a marketing automation company for many years. So I know probably more than a lot of people do. Okay. So I know enough. And I also have competency around me that I can tap if something is going awry. Okay. In, I would say, in like accounting, finance, and all those types of things, don't care. I have people for that, don't care. Right.
That's what I'm
So,
getting
like,
to right there is how much you like versus like I don't know anything about that because Matt when we talked about the marketing thing Matt was like hey Matt I'm gonna go and I'm gonna start reading about marketing I'm gonna learn about it. I said by the time you learn everything about marketing it's already advanced 5 years ahead of you. So I was like, don't spend all that time trying to become an expert in it. Let's find somebody who is an expert in it and then help them elevate us. So I'm wondering, yeah, like how much do you just like are you're the expert in this? Just tell me what to do versus how much do you actually know to guide them?
I think that was the most scary thing with taking over this business because it was one of those feelings where it's like, wow, this is like a 30-year-old startup. That's how it felt, So we've got that was really. I'm like, wow, okay, I know the product is good, I know that the IP works, I know all these things, but man, I don't have a concept of understanding some of these pieces of it, and so some of it I did jump in, and for the last year and a half, I've been doing a lot more than I probably will do. Right. And because I needed to know what I had, what will work, what doesn't work. And I needed to test it myself because I'm too picky. And I wanted to make sure that what we're delivering is an excellent product. What we're delivering is an excellent experience. And as a professional services company, that is the name of the game, right? Excellence. And so when we look at that, so Matt, there's certain things I don't care. I have a legal. I got, my accounting, a different, like all that stuff. I am depending on them to continue to come to me. Now, I have regular check-ins and regular things, so I'm making sure everything is okay. But I am not going to. The reason I have and pay for that expertise is because I don't want to have it. So for me, I think I know enough in certain areas, like the marketing piece. I know enough to know, like, yeah, I'm not doing that. Yep, not doing that. These are the things that we're not going to lean into. But I have other people around me too that I can say, I mean, I'm hearing this. I could never afford you, but tell me, like, does that even sound right?
Sure.
And then I can bounce it off of
And
them.
you're
I've
talking about your
also,
professional network there, right?
yep, my
Yeah.
professional network. Yep, for sure. I have two very large AI companies that work with. And so as we have trained their teams and continue to train their teams, is making sure that as their tools are able to do certain things that yes, you can utilize, this
Mm-hmm.
framework within that
Yeah.
and different things like that for sure. Yeah.
All right, so you brought up something that I'm very curious about, and I need to get better at. Meetings. Me and Matt have a different philosophy on meetings for the most part, for a little bit. Matt loves to be on meetings. Matt loves to talk on meetings. He just that's Matt's that's how he gets information in and digests stuff is by having meetings and talking about it. But his agenda's on meetings and being serious about like, all right, this is what our topics are. So that way we cut these meetings to where they're not super long meetings and they don't drag out. We don't talk about things we don't need to, and we have a set agenda about what we need to take care of, what are our action items, and then move forward from there. So you brought up agendas on those meetings. I mean, how do you bring that up? How do you, what's your structure on those? And when you come into a meeting, what's the plan?
I think, okay, first of all, when I ask, "Hey, how many of you send agendas when I'm doing a sales training? It is so rare that I actually have people raise their hand. And I think it is one of the most distinctive things, especially if you're in a competitive conversation and they're talking to multiple different people. If you want to distinguish yourself differently, that is one of the best ways to do it, to set the tone for what we're going to be doing and ask if you'd like to add anything. So yes, we have a framework. So in proactive selling, we teach this, right? You're going to send it. I mean, some people send it immediately. I prefer to send it a few days in advance because what I'm actually testing for is the energy of them to say, "Yep, looks good," or "No, I want to also touch on this," or something else. I'm looking for some feedback, and we call it a give get in proactive selling. This is a give get. Like I'm testing them. I'm giving them almost a little homework assignment called "Yep." Or no, or are they not responding to me at all? That's going to tell me how much energy is in this conversation. So a couple days before, yeah, usually about 3 days before. So I always look at my calendar a few days in advance and I look down and say like, okay, I got meetings and if, do we have agendas for these? If these are my meetings and I'm calling them, it's up to me to send this agenda. And so with that, that is one of the places where I can do and use AI. For instance, if I had a previous, meeting with them and I want to say, hey, last time we touched on these things, this is where we are today. People like threes and fives, I usually make bullet points of 3. This is what we're going to do today. Or this is what we're going to talk about on Thursday. Anything you want to add? And I always, is there anything additional? What I'm asking is a question in there. So they're like, nope, looks good, Christine. Or, yeah, we got to touch on these 3 things too. Or something else, right? Any response there is good for me because it's showing that they're paying attention. And also that they're prepped for my meeting. You don't want to get ghosted, right? So in that, I think it's really important. So with that, Matt, I would say, give them an overview. If you've already talked with them before, remind them of what you've done prior. Then here's what we're going to do today, and don't make it anything other than 3 bullet points or 5 bullet points. Nobody likes anything different, and I don't know why 3s and 5s are things that we like, but that's what we do. And so when you do that, and then you ask them a question to pressure test for energy.
And that's for like your sales meeting. So you're doing that for sales meeting to
No, you
prep
do
that
it
up.
for
What
every meeting, right?
every meeting, internal
So
meeting.
prospect, I'm
Look,
setting the stage.
that's right. In my Calendly, if you book time with me on an intro call, my next email that you're getting is an agenda email saying, I'm so excited that we're going to be meeting on this date, this time. Here are the things that I need to understand about you. And I tell them exactly the 3 things that we're going to be talking about on this intro call. Is that comprehensive? No. But is it going to tell them that I'm about to ask you a lot of questions on this call? So come with it. And what are the things that what are things that you want to cover as well? Love to hear that. So you can actually set yourself up through Calendly on that specific calendar to send an agenda and a response email, and then send them another one 2 days before. Hey, just to recap, here's what we're going to be talking about, or just to remind you, this is what we're going to be doing. If anything's come up between now and then, tell me what you want to add. So I'm all about it.
I'm doing it. It's done. It's written down. It's added. Christine, I'm going to report back. Matt will not do it. He said it. He will not do it. I've worked
He'll
with him
do it.
long enough. He won't do it.
I need to do it. I need to
Hey,
do
you
it.
know what? You just needed a framework. I
Hey,
think
Christine, didn't you get my agenda for this meeting?
Yeah,
Last
yeah,
night, Christine, an agenda about
I'm
what
not
we're
telling. I'm not.
gonna.
yeah. So it actually ties in directly to one of the two questions I have before we wrap it up. Learning styles. Matt just said, I'm not a reader. If you send me something more than 3 bullet points, literally, if it's more than 3 sentences, I'm not reading it.
Mhm.
I don't digest through reading. I don't comprehend well through reading. Like, I know that's a gap and a weakness. Like, through high school, I had to take tests. My mom was an educator, convinced the school that all of my tests were verbally said to me and then me audibly saying back to them. And when I was able to do that, I was able to increase my score level drastically because that's how I read and comprehend. But my learning style and my communication style is not by typing and reading, it's by talking and listening. So as leaders, we kind of butt heads a little bit in that because I'm fine having 5 meetings to go through 5 different things and agendas. He wants to have it sent in an email and then read it and comprehend it, but we don't learn that way. As you are a trainer, I'm sure you get into rooms where some people are readers, some people are listeners, some people are doers. Like for me, when I say like in a classroom environment, I don't do well, even though I comprehend well by leading, I have to do, not just listen. I have to then do. So how do you like identify learning style and then maybe change based off your audience?
So one of the things we start with is actually not learning style. It is, I have everybody take a very simple DISC assessment. And that's more, and the reason I do that one is because it's simple. It's very simple. And we start with it and we talk a little bit about who everyone is naturally. Have either of you taken that before? A
What's it
DISC?
called? DISC assessment?
DISC, DISC. Yeah. So so it's a very simple one. And the reason I like it is because as we introduce who are you naturally to the conversation, right? I want to introduce who are you. Then we talk about you. And then we talk about what is that? Like, how do you incorporate that into the conversation that you're having with a prospect? And what do you know? And I will tell you this. So the way that the DISC is set up, I'm going to summarize it in a very like general way is that it's a quadrant, right? And you're either introverted or extroverted. So Matt Walton, I believe you are probably more introverted. And when you look, well,
I'm,
in
I'm much
this,
more introverted and he's much more
but
extroverted.
in this environment, this that there it might be different.
Yeah,
So what I'm
yes,
trying to say is, in general, it may not be like who you are at a party might not be necessarily how you show up here. Okay, so that's okay. But what we're trying to understand is. Are you more? We actually don't really care about introverted, extroverted as much. I care about if you are task oriented or if you're more social. And that is where, when we first teach, the very first thing is I'm like, do no harm. The first thing in the first 15, 20 seconds, you don't want to irritate whoever you are talking to. So if someone that you are talking to is very much like, let's get to it, let's do it, let's get to it. And you are talking about your weekend, and I'm talking to you about, your dog, Matt, and I'm talking to you about, what is that, and I'm doing all this stuff, it's going to irritate. Okay. Conversely, if you are more social and I immediately am running us through, all right, so today we're going to do da 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 da, and I haven't warmed you up at all, you are going to be irritated and feel like I am like it's off-putting. So with that, that is one of the very first things that we do. Matt, the reason I was saying that is because like in general, there are certain personality types that are much more like needs precision, wants it in writing. If you send something in advance, Matt Uber is not going to read it. Matt Walton, you will have read it twice and have things circled that have things that you have questions about because it didn't make sense and you ran it through AI and the data wasn't holding, right? You're going to have that personality different than Matt who didn't read it to begin with. So that when you look at it, you're able to, if you're a good seller, be able to say, if I'm going to recap this email to Matt Uber, it is going to be, he will not have to scroll. You will not have to scroll on your phone. It better be bullet points and it better be short and sweet. Matt Walton, if I want to make sure that you read it, I'm going to attach 3 things that are going to do it, that will prep you for the next time that we talk. And it will give you data, precision, and all of the things that you need to know in order to come to a decision that feels better for you. And if I were looking at that and I paid attention to who you are in the conversation, I will be able to do, I won't create friction in how we communicate. I'm going to do it nice and smooth. So when I teach people, I'm like, hey, we just had a call. This is the recap of the call. Here's how I would write it to somebody that is more social. Here's how I would write it to someone that is more task oriented. And that's exactly how I would recap those emails. And this is exactly how I would get ready for the next call with them, because I don't want to create friction.
Last question for it. At Aspireship, you said you would have on people that come on at all shapes and sizes. I've got a general philosophy on this. Is there 2 to 3 personality traits that you would look at and say, if this individual has this trait, and this trait, they'll be good at sales? Or if they don't have X, Y, and Z, they likely will struggle at sales. I know that you guys would teach anybody with any background how to do sales, and I kind of have a background of doing that too, but there are certain things I generally look for, and when they have those things, more than not, they're able to work, or if they don't, no matter how much you want it, it's not going to work. That's my last question.
I think a couple of things. One, they have to be a demonstrated learner. So I'm looking, I don't care how or what you've learned recently. I'm looking for people that have been learning and are naturally people that want to learn. That's why Aspireship worked, because just like I told you guys, make people go through the motions of doing the role you want to hire for. That's why Aspireship worked, because we made them do the learning. They had to then do role plays and be uncomfortable and sit in that. Then we would give them coaching. That's the other thing. You got to be coachable. Can you flip quickly, take that coaching and do better? And that, I think, is you got to be able to you got to be confident in what you do, but you got to have enough humility to be able to take coaching and to rise to it. So not just be able to hear it and take the feedback, but to apply it. And that is something completely different. And so I think, like, when I'm looking at those two things, and I'm just going to say in general, likability. In general, people are looking for warmth and likability. And there is a natural thing that some people are just likable. And when I am not, it's a hard thing to quantify, but man, warmth and likability goes so far in being able to just have a conversation. Have the conversation.
Yeah, I think about it. I got on a sales call because we're looking at potentially doing some ads for our real estate business. And this guy might have been really good at it, but I just did not like him. Like, it just
Immediately.
the way his attitude was and the way he like carried himself, I was like, I just can't. Like, you might be great for my business, but I don't see me working with you. It's just the way that you carry yourself. I just can't do it.
So often, Matt and I get on calls like that, and within 3 minutes, I text him, I don't like this guy. Like, and it's
you don't.
Immediately. I
There's
determine
something.
it.
Yeah. And not every job has to have that. Like, I don't feel that same way. I had a guy who did like surgery on my neck, the biggest jerk you've ever imagined. I don't care at all. But you know what? I kept hearing, this guy's the best there is. You know what? I don't have a scar on my neck, and like that matters to me. Is he a complete prick? Yes. And do I care?
A lawyer,
no.
maybe even those, like that
Certain ones
matter.
don't care.
It's funny to say that, because so part of our process, I mean, we now, I've taken my sales training, and I used to have people pay for my sales training when I first started. Now we've taken every bit of my sales training and we put it onto school, and everybody who wants to work with us gets to take my sales training for free. No matter if they've done sales or not, they get to take everything for free. But they have to do that before they ever can work with us. They have to do it, and they have to complete it, and then they have to be tested by one of my sales managers on their competency and comprehension of that sales training. And we most of the time fail them on their first assessment, so that we can then coach them, have them leave, come back, and make sure that they were able to apply that coaching. And that's the overall tested mechanism, like you mentioned earlier, around, I'm going to give you stuff. I'm not going to teach you everything you need to know about sales, but I'm going to give you some general concepts, see how well you learned it, see how well you can apply it, probably fail you, have you come back, are you better, and then we've got a good fit, and then I'll likely hire you. So it's a lot of what you said there is kind of what we have in place.
Great.
Without the too much of thought behind the concept. So look, Christine, the reason why we do this podcast is there's 3 reasons. One reason is we want to have an opportunity to learn from people who've been down the road that we've done, and you've been a great educator to us in this episode. Number two, and I would say probably the biggest reason why we do this, is to be able to continue to expand and grow our professional network. And that's something that now, in the stage I'm in my career, I wish somebody would have told me how important a professional network is. And so hopefully coming out of this, we can have you as an ally to us, and we will 100% be an ally to you. And I'm excited to have you be a part of our professional network. Thank you for giving us an hour and 15 minutes today, and more importantly to our audience. Before we leave, is there any final words you would like to for us?
No, you know what? This has been a blast. Thank you for having me. I absolutely invite, anybody that has questions, or your network, your community. Of course, the two of you. I mean, I certainly don't know everything. I am learning too, and have enjoyed this conversation because I am a learner. And so thank you for sharing with me and allowing me to share some of my thoughts. Really, it was a good time.
Thank you. And before, I'm gonna need you to check your spam, because that agenda is definitely in there somewhere. Okay. I threw it out there. I was
I
prepared.
will.
But
I
thank
love
you so
it.
much for being here.
You're
If you
welcome.
guys got anything like we did on this, because I know we definitely got a lot from this, please like, share, subscribe, comment, hit the bell icon. We drop these episodes every Friday at 9 o'clock. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here, Christine.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Thank you, guys.